You guys ever heard of dream sharing? Jack asked, fiddling with a small device in his hand, excitement bubbling in his voice. Dream sharing? Tony raised an eyebrow, clearly confused by what Jack was talking about. Yeah, it's this brand new tech that lets multiple people share the same dream. We can jump into each other's dreams, experience what the other person sees. Sounds cooler than virtual reality, right? Jack's voice was filled with excitement. You mean we can all be in the same dream together? Amy glanced at the device Jack was holding, her tone a mix of curiosity and hesitation. I don't know, this sounds a bit sketchy. What if something goes wrong? Relax, I've looked into it. This thing's been tested a bunch of times, totally safe. Jack gave her a reassuring smile. And come on, how often do we get to try something like this? Sitting on the couch, arms crossed, Lisa watched quietly. Are you sure there are no side effects? I've read that dreams and the subconscious are much more complicated, especially when multiple minds get involved. Jack waved dismissively. Come on, Lisa. We'll just try it out once. Let's see if we can jump into Tony's dream. It's just a game. Amy sighed, but eventually caved. Fine. But if anything happens, it's on you. Tony chuckled nervously. Just as long as we don't end up in some zombie apocalypse or anything. They decided to try the experiment at Jack's apartment, and by 7 p.m., the four of them gathered around, ready to enter Tony's dream through the dream-sharing device. Ready? Jack pressed the button on the device. A light electrical sensation passed through them, and their vision went black for a moment, before a soft glow filled the space. Slowly, the world around them came into focus. They stood on a grassy field, surrounded by a familiar park from Tony's childhood. The sun was shining, kids played on swings, and an ice cream truck jingled in the distance. Wow, so this is it, Amy said, looking around, surprised. Seems harmless enough. Tony chuckled. This was my favorite place as a kid. Looks normal, right? Lisa walked up to a swing set and gave it a light push. Everything feels so real. This is amazing. And that's what dream sharing does. Jack joined them, grinning. Pretty awesome, right? What do you think? Amy nodded but still seemed uneasy. I don't know. Everything seems fine, but something feels off. They continued exploring the dream, enjoying the peacefulness of Tony's childhood memories. But soon, Amy's feeling of unease started to grow. The sky, once bright and blue, slowly turned a dull gray. The lush green grass turned brittle and dead, like it had been scorched by fire. What's happening? Tony was the first to notice, a trace of fear in his voice. Don't freak out, Lisa said, trying to stay calm. Maybe it's just part of the dream. Or maybe your subconscious is shifting things. Suddenly, an eerie laugh echoed in the distance, sending a shiver down their spines. A faceless woman stood at the edge of the park, her stiff body slowly moving toward them. We need to get out of here. Amy's voice trembled. Right, Jack agreed. Let's wake up. End the dream. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't wake up. Why aren't we waking up? Tony's voice was panicked now, his eyes darting around as the faceless woman moved closer. Everyone's breathing grew heavier. Why are we still here? Amy's fear was mounting, her hands fumbling with the device strapped to her head, trying to rip it off, but it wouldn't budge. Stay calm, Lisa urged, though her own voice betrayed her rising fear. We're probably just stuck temporarily. Let's think this through. We'll figure it out. Jack's face had gone pale. We just need to stay grounded. Keep calm. We'll find a way out. But even as he said it, the growing terror gnawed at him. Suddenly, The faceless woman disappeared, leaving behind an unsettling silence. The ground beneath their feet started to shake and cracks formed in the dead grass, black smoke seeping up from the earth. Panicking, they tried to run, but no matter how far they moved, the park remained around them, an endless loop of horror. The sky darkened completely, like night had swallowed the world. The low, haunting sound of voices filled the air, as if whispering from the depths of their own minds. "We're trapped." Tony's voice broke into a scream. "We need to wake up. There has to be a way." Amy's voice shook as she clutched Jack's arm. Lisa frowned, deep in thought. I think the dream-sharing device is causing feedback. It's trapping us, mixing dream with reality." "This is not the time for theories, Lisa," Jack snapped. "We need to find a way out." As they stood, desperate and scared, the faceless woman reappeared. This time, her head turned toward them, her face blank, yet horrifying, and she smiled, a twisted, unnatural smile that made their skin crawl. Just as the terror peaked, a bright light suddenly engulfed them, pulling them from the nightmare with a violent force. When they opened their eyes, they were back in Jack's apartment. The room was quiet, the clock on the wall ticking toward midnight. "Jesus, we're back," Tony panted, his shirt soaked in sweat. Jack rubbed his head, dazed. That felt way too real, like more real than any dream should. Amy looked around nervously. "We're really back, right?" Lisa didn't answer immediately, her eyes narrowing as if piecing things together. "I'm not sure," she finally said. "The boundaries between dream and reality. That faceless woman. It's like she knew too much about us." "What do you mean?" Tony's voice was still shaky. "She wasn't just a random part of the dream," Lisa explained, her voice low. "I think she was something more, something deeper. Maybe some kind of entity living in the dream. And now, she's starting to cross over into reality." Amy suddenly gasped, staring at her wrist. A faint scratch had appeared, as if something or someone had clawed at her. "What the hell? Where did this come from?" Her voice trembled. Lisa's eyes grew cold. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. The dream is starting to bleed into our world. We may not have fully woken up." Over the next few days, things grew worse. At night, Tony's bedroom door would creak open by itself, even though he had locked it. Strange whispers echoed through the hallways, as though someone or something was standing right outside. Amy began seeing things too. Every time she looked into the mirror, her reflection felt wrong. It wasn't just her face looking back at her. It was the faceless woman. She could feel the woman's presence, lurking just beneath the surface, smiling that same sick, twisted smile. "We need to do something," Amy whispered one night, her voice tight with fear. "It feels like the dream is taking over." Jack nodded. He felt it too. The overwhelming sense that something had followed them back, something they couldn't see but could always feel. He spent hours scouring the internet, searching for answers, but nothing came close to what they were experiencing. In a final act of desperation, they decided to reach out to Harold, the creator of the dream-sharing device, hoping he could explain what was happening and, more importantly, how to stop it. Harold lived on the outskirts of the city, in a small rundown house. When they arrived, it was nearly 10 p.m. Weeds grew tall around the house, giving it an abandoned feel. Jack knocked on the door, which creaked open slowly. A thin, pale man stood behind it, his eyes sunken and hollow, as if he hadn't slept in weeks. "Harold," Jack asked, "we're users of the dream-sharing device and we've run into some trouble." At the mention of dream-sharing, Harold's eyes filled with fear. He shook his head frantically, stepping back. You shouldn't have used it. Dreams aren't just dreams. They can hold you. They will swallow everything. Lisa stepped forward, trying to stay calm. We've noticed strange things. It's like the dream is merging with reality. Do you know how we can stop it? Harold's face twisted in despair, his voice breaking as he spoke. You think you're awake? No. You're still inside. You're still dreaming. One dream inside another, inside another. There's no way out. Tony's face drained of color. No way. We're awake. We're back. We have to be. Harold let out a bitter laugh. Look at your hands. Look at your faces. Are you sure that's really you? You never left. You never woke up. Jack glanced down at his hands, his heart racing as he saw the faint cut. The same cut from the dream. Amy's face went pale as she stared at Harold, fear blooming in her eyes. We can't go back. Amy's voice was barely a whisper, trembling with disbelief. Harold only shook his head, sinking deeper into his despair. None of us are ever getting out. They left Harold's house, their minds spinning with fear and confusion. Back at Jack's apartment, a heavy silence filled the air, thick with an unspoken terror. What do we do now? Tony's voice cracked as he spoke, his hands trembling. He's lost it, Jack said, trying to convince himself as much as the others. He's mixing up dreams and reality. He doesn't know what's real anymore. Amy was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, "But what if he's right? I still feel like the nightmare is following us." Jack didn't respond. Instead, he walked to the bathroom, needing a moment to clear his head. He turned on the faucet, splashing cold water on his face. But as he looked up into the mirror, he froze. The face staring back at him was smiling. It was his face, but it wasn't his smile. It was hers. The faceless woman's smile, twisted and sickening. Jack stumbled backward, fear twisting in his chest. No, this isn't happening.